The name they fear. Across 47 star systems, children are told one bedtime warning. If you hear footsteps in the dark, pray it's not him. The medical bay of Station Valora Prime smelled of antiseptic and fear. Dr. Cirrus Veth pressed her four-fingered hands against her patient's chest, feeling the weak pulse beneath blue skin. The Corvani trader had been found drifting in an escape pod, barely alive. His injuries told a story of violence, plasma burns, broken bones, and something that looked disturbingly like bite marks. "What happened to you?" Cirrus whispered, adjusting the neural scanner above his head. The Corvani's eyes snapped open, yellow, bloodshot, filled with terror. "He found us!" the trader gasped. "The Silence Walker! He found us!" Cirrus felt her blood run cold. She was Nethari, a species of healers and scientists. Her people did not believe in legends. They believed in data, evidence, and logical explanation. But every species in the galaxy knew that name. "The Silence Walker is a myth," she said, keeping her voice steady. "A story pirates tell to scare each other." The Corvani grabbed her wrist with surprising strength. "I saw him 3 days ago. Merchant vessel Crying Dawn. 47 crew members." His voice broke. "I am the only one left." "That's impossible. No single being could—" "He is not a being." The trader's grip tightened. "He is human." The word hung in the air like poison. Cirrus had studied humans in her medical training. Classified as a Class 7 persistence predator, they were one of the younger species in the galaxy, barely 200 years since their first contact with alien life. Most species considered them primitive, emotional, and dangerously unpredictable. But in the last 50 years, stories had emerged. Whispers in dark corners of space stations. Tales passed between smugglers and soldiers. Stories of a human who hunted those who preyed on the innocent. The Silence Walker. No one knew his real name. Some said he was a soldier who lost his family to raiders. Others claimed he was an experiment, a weapon created by human military and set loose upon the galaxy. The stories agreed on only 3 things. He worked alone. He never stopped. And no one who saw his face lived to describe it. "Tell me what happened," Cirrus said softly. "Tell me everything." The Corvani's eyes grew distant. "We were running cargo. Illegal cargo. Slaves." He didn't flinch at the word. 12 Nethari younglings, taken from a colony on the Outer Rim. Good price on the black market. Cirrus's hands trembled. Nethari younglings, her people's children. "We thought we were safe," the trader continued. "The Crying Dawn was fast, armed. 47 experienced crew, half of them former military." He laughed bitterly. "We were 3 days from the buyer when the lights went out." "A power failure?" "No. He cut the main power conduit from outside the ship, in the vacuum of space." The Corvani's voice dropped to a whisper. "Do you understand? He was walking on the hull, in nothing but a pressure suit, for 6 hours." Cirrus said nothing. She knew human physiology. Their species could survive in extreme conditions that would kill most others. But 6 hours in the cold of space, manually cutting through ship systems. When the emergency lights came on, Varn, our captain, sent a team to check the damage. 6 of our best fighters. The trader closed his eyes. "We found them 20 minutes later. All 6. Arranged in a circle around the main airlock. Their weapons were still holstered." "He killed 6 armed soldiers without them drawing their weapons?" "Not killed. Disabled. Broken bones. Pressure point strikes. They were alive, but they couldn't move." The Corvani opened his eyes. That was his message. He wanted us to know he could have killed them. He chose not to. Why would... Because he wanted us afraid. The trader's voice cracked. And it worked. Varn ordered all crew to arm themselves and hunt the intruder. 35 fighters, spreading through the ship in groups of 5. He paused. Then the screaming started. Cirrus checked her patient's vitals. His heart rate was spiking dangerously high, but she needed to hear the rest. He took them apart, group by group. We could hear it on the comms, gunfire, shouting, then silence. Always silence at the end. The Corvani gripped his bed sheets. I was in the engine room with Captain Varn and 4 others. We sealed the doors, set up a defensive position. We thought we could hold. What happened? He came through the ventilation system, dropped from the ceiling like a shadow. Varn fired first, emptied an entire plasma clip. Not a single shot hit. The trader's voice was barely audible now. The human moved like water, like smoke. He was there and then he wasn't. Varn was dead before he could reload. And you survived? He let me live. The Corvani met her eyes. He killed 46 crew members, freed the children, gave them food, water, medicine, set them in an escape pod programmed for the nearest station. Then he came to me. Cirrus leaned closer. What did he say? He said... The trader swallowed hard. He said, tell them what you saw. Tell them what happens to those who take children. Tell them the Silence Walker is real. And tell them... The Corvani's monitor began beeping frantically. His heart rate was crashing. Tell them what? Cirrus demanded. Tell them... I'm just getting started. The trader's eyes rolled back. His body convulsed once, then went still. The monitor flatlined. Cirrus stood frozen beside the bed. Her mind raced through everything she had just heard. 46 dead. 12 children saved. A human who moved through a heavily armed ship like a ghost. The Silence Walker. A myth. A legend. A bedtime story to frighten criminals. But the body in front of her was very real. And so were the 12 Nathari younglings who had arrived at the station 3 days ago, rescued from slavery by an unknown benefactor. Cirrus removed her medical gloves and walked to the window. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly into the void. Somewhere out there, a human was hunting, patient, relentless, unstoppable. Her communicator beeped. A message from station security. Dr. Veth, we need you in docking bay 7. A ship has arrived requesting medical assistance. Single occupant. Human. Cirrus read the message 3 times. Her hands began to shake. She walked toward docking bay 7, each step heavier than the last. The corridor seemed to stretch forever. Other station workers passed her, going about their daily routines, unaware that everything was about to change. The bay doors opened. A small ship sat in the center of the docking area. Old, battle-scarred, the kind of vessel that had seen too many fights and survived them all. And standing beside it, speaking quietly with a security officer, was a human. He was not what Cirrus expected. No towering monster, no cold-eyed killer, just a man. Average height, brown hair with streaks of gray, a simple jacket and worn boots. He looked tired. Human tired. The kind of exhaustion that went deeper than the body. Then he turned. His eyes met hers across the docking bay. And Cirrus felt her blood freeze. Those eyes. She had seen eyes like that once before, in a documentary about Earth predators. A wolf, the humans called it. An animal that could chase its prey for days without stopping. An animal that never gave up. The human smiled. It was not a threatening smile. It was almost kind. Dr. Veth, he called out. His voice was soft, gentle even. I was told you're the best physician on this station. I have some injuries that need attention. Cirrus couldn't move, couldn't speak. Tell them the Silence Walker is real. The human walked toward her. His footsteps made no sound. "My name is Marcus Cole," he said, extending his hand. "I believe you've heard of me." She stood face to face with the galaxy's most feared hunter, and he was asking for her help. The man behind the monster. She expected a killer. She found something far more dangerous, a human with nothing left to lose. Cirrus's hand trembled as she reached for the human's outstretched palm. His grip was firm but careful. She noticed calluses on his fingers, the kind that came from years of holding weapons. But his touch was gentle, almost apologetic. "You're shaking," Marcus observed. His wolf eyes studied her with unsettling intensity. "You've heard the stories. A traitor died in my medical bay an hour ago." Cirrus was surprised by the steadiness of her own voice. "He told me what you did to his ship." "The Crying Dawn." Marcus nodded slowly. 47 slavers, 12 children in their cargo hold. His expression didn't change. "I showed them mercy. I only killed the ones who fought back." "You call that mercy?" "I call it mathematics." He released her hand. 47 criminals who would have sold children to the highest bidder versus 12 innocent lives. The numbers made sense. Cirrus should have been horrified, should have called security, should have done anything except stand there, staring at this soft-spoken human who described mass killing like a simple equation. Instead, she asked, "What injuries need attention?" Marcus's smile flickered, something almost like surprise. "You're not running. You came to a medical station. If you wanted to hurt people, you would have chosen somewhere else." Cirrus straightened her posture, forcing courage she didn't feel. "Besides, you saved Nathari children. My people's children. That earns you at least a medical examination." For a long moment, Marcus simply looked at her. Then he laughed. It was a strange sound, rusty, like a machine that hadn't been used in years. "I like you, Dr. Veth. You're practical." He gestured toward his ship. "I took some damage during the Crying Dawn operation. Nothing critical, but I'd rather not let it get worse." They walked to the medical bay in silence. Station workers stopped and stared as they passed. Word traveled fast on Valora Prime. By now, everyone knew a human had arrived. Not just any human. The human. Cirrus noticed how Marcus moved. Silent, economical. Every step calculated to minimize sound and maximize efficiency. He walked like prey was always watching. Or perhaps like he was always hunting. In the medical bay, she directed him to remove his jacket. What she saw beneath made her breath catch. Scars. Dozens of them. Plasma burns, knife wounds, what looked like claw marks across his ribs. His body was a map of violence, every inch telling a story of survival. But the fresh injuries were what concerned her. 3 deep gashes across his back, still oozing blood. A puncture wound in his left thigh. Burns on both forearms from what she guessed was close-range plasma fire. "You did this while rescuing those children?" she asked. "The crew fought hard, harder than I expected." Marcus sat on the examination table, showing no reaction as she cleaned his wounds. Their captain was a former military commander. Good tactical mind. Nearly caught me twice. Yet here you are, and he's dead. He made choices. I made him face the consequences. Marcus's voice was flat. "That's all this is, Doctor. Consequences." Cirrus worked in silence for several minutes, stitching wounds and applying regenerative patches. The human bore the pain without flinching. His heart rate, she noticed, remained completely steady. "Can I ask you something?" she finally said. "You've been wanting to since we met. Go ahead." "Why?" Cirrus met his eyes. "You're one human. The galaxy is full of slavers, pirates, murderers. You can't stop them all. You can't save everyone. So why do you keep fighting? Marcus was quiet for so long that Cirrus thought he wouldn't answer. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small object. A photograph. Old, worn at the edges, the colors faded. It showed a human woman and 2 children. A girl with bright red hair and a boy with his father's eyes. They were smiling. Behind them was a blue sky and green grass. Earth, perhaps. My wife, Sarah. My daughter, Emma. My son, Daniel. Marcus's voice didn't waver, but something in his eyes cracked. 7 years ago, raiders hit our colony. Varn corsairs. They took everyone they could sell and burned the rest. Cirrus's hands stopped moving. I was off-world. Security contract. By the time I got back, there was nothing left but ash and bodies. Marcus returned the photograph to his pocket. I found out later that Sarah died fighting. She killed 3 of them before they cut her down. The children... He paused. The children were taken. Did you find them? I found Emma 3 years later, in a mining camp in the Outer Territories. She was 12 years old. She didn't recognize me anymore. Marcus's jaw tightened. She died in my arms 2 days later. The conditions in that camp, her body just gave up. Cirrus felt tears forming in her eyes. And your son? I'm still looking. Marcus's voice hardened. Every ship I destroy, every slaver I kill, I'm looking for information, trails, leads. Someone knows where they sold a human boy with brown eyes and his mother's smile. Someone knows, and I will find them. What if he's... Cirrus couldn't finish the sentence. Dead? Marcus shrugged. Then I'll find who killed him, and I'll make sure they remember his name before they die. He looked at her with those terrible, tired eyes. You asked why I keep fighting. That's why. Because somewhere in this galaxy, there might be a scared little boy who still remembers his father's face. And I will burn every slaver station in existence if that's what it takes to bring him home. Cirrus finished her work in silence. She bandaged the last wound and stepped back. You should rest, she said quietly. Your body needs time to heal. I'll rest when I'm done. When will that be? Marcus smiled again. That wolf smile. When there's no one left who trades in children. When every pirate in the galaxy knows that taking innocent lives has a price. When my son is either safe in my arms or avenged in blood. He stood, reaching for his jacket. So probably never. He walked toward the door, then paused. Thank you, Dr. Veth, for the treatment and for not screaming when you saw me. Cirrus, she heard herself say. My name is Cirrus. Cirrus. He tested the name. A kind name, for a kind person. He turned to face her one final time. This station is safe. I don't hunt innocents, and I don't bring trouble to those who help me. But there's a ship coming, the Iron Mandate. It will arrive in approximately 18 hours. Cirrus frowned. I don't know that ship. You will. Marcus's expression darkened. It belongs to someone I've been hunting for 3 years. Someone who might know where my son is. Someone very powerful, with very dangerous friends. Why are you telling me this? Because when that ship arrives, things are going to get violent. And I want you to take the children, the ones I rescued, and any others on this station, and get them somewhere safe. He held her gaze. Can you do that for me, Cirrus? She should say no. She should contact the authorities. She should do anything except agree to help a wanted killer. Yes, she whispered. Marcus nodded. Then he walked out the door, and Cirrus was alone with the silence. She looked at the medical table where he had sat. A single drop of blood stained the surface, red like any other species, but somehow more vivid. Human blood. The blood of a monster. The blood of a father. the blood of the most dangerous man in the galaxy, and he had asked for her help. 18 hours. Cirrus spent the next 12 preparing. She contacted the families of the rescued Nethari children and arranged secure transport to the inner systems. She quietly gathered other younglings on the station, Corvani, Krillian, even a few human children, and organized a civilian evacuation. No one questioned her. When a senior medical officer said it was time to move, people moved. But she couldn't stop thinking about Marcus Cole, the silence walker, the human nightmare, the boogeyman of the criminal underworld. She had touched his scars, heard his story, seen the photograph of a family destroyed by violence, and she found herself wondering, was he a monster, or was the galaxy that created him the real monster? At hour 16, her communicator buzzed. Unknown sender. Message: thank you for helping the children. Stay hidden when it starts. Don't come out until it's over. Cirrus stared at the message. Then she typed a reply. Who is coming? Who are you really fighting? The response came seconds later. His name is Lord Calith Vorn. He runs the largest slave network in the galaxy. He was the one who ordered the raid on my colony. He was the one who bought my children. Cirrus felt her stomach drop. Everyone knew Lord Calith Vorn, a Corvani noble, one of the wealthiest beings in known space. He had connections to half the criminal enterprises in the galaxy, but no one could prove anything. No one dared try. You're going to fight him? Here? The reply was simple. I'm going to end him. Here. Cirrus looked out her window at the stars. Somewhere out there, a ship full of killers was approaching, and one human was planning to face them alone. She should hide, should take her own advice and find somewhere safe. Instead, she began walking toward Docking Bay 7. The bay was empty when she arrived. Marcus's ship still sat in the center, battered and quiet. The human himself was nowhere to be seen. Then she heard a voice behind her. I told you to stay hidden. Cirrus turned. Marcus emerged from the shadows like he had been part of them. His wounds were bandaged beneath fresh clothes. His eyes were calm, cold. I'm a doctor, she said. You're about to fight an army. You're going to need medical support. I've done this before, alone. And how many times have you nearly died? She stepped toward him. How many wounds have you ignored until they became dangerous? How many battles have you fought while bleeding out because there was no one to help you? Marcus said nothing. I'm not asking to fight, Cirrus continued. I'm not a warrior, but I can be there when it's over. I can make sure you survive long enough to find your son. For a long moment, Marcus simply stared at her. Then something shifted in his expression. Something human. You're brave, Cirrus. Stupid, but brave. He almost smiled. Fine. When the fighting starts, stay on my ship. The hull is reinforced. You'll be safe there. When it's over, if I'm still alive, you can patch me up. And if you're not alive? Then take the ship. The navigation computer has coordinates for a human colony. They'll take care of you. He turned away. Now go. The Iron Mandate will be here in less than 2 hours. I have preparations to make. Cyrus walked toward his ship. At the ramp, she paused and looked back. Marcus? He stopped.
Thank you, Dr. Veth, for the treatment and for not screaming when you saw me. Cirrus, she heard herself say. My name is Cirrus. Cirrus. He tested the name. A kind name. For a kind person. He turned to face her one final time. This station is safe. I don't hunt innocents, and I don't bring trouble to those who help me. But there's a ship coming. The Iron Mandate. It will arrive in approximately 18 hours. Cirrus frowned. I don't know that ship. You will. Marcus's expression darkened.
It belongs to someone I've been hunting for 3 years. Someone who might know where my son is. Someone very powerful, with very dangerous friends. Why are you telling me this? Because when that ship arrives, things are going to get violent. And I want you to take the children, the ones I rescued, and any others on this station, and get them somewhere safe. He held her gaze. Can you do that for me, Cirrus? She should say no. She should contact the authorities. She should do anything except agree to help a wanted killer. Yes, she whispered. Marcus nodded. Then he walked out the door, and Cirrus was alone with the silence. She looked at the medical table where he had sat. A single drop of blood stained the surface, red, like any other species, but somehow more vivid. Human blood. The blood of a monster. The blood of a father. The blood of the most dangerous man in the galaxy. And he had asked for her help. 18 hours. Cirrus spent the next 12 preparing. She contacted the families of the rescued Nathari children and arranged secure transport to the inner systems. She quietly gathered other younglings on the station, Corvani, Krillian, even a few human children, and organized a civilian evacuation. No one questioned her. When a senior medical officer said it was time to move, people moved. But she couldn't stop thinking about Marcus Cole, the silence walker, the human nightmare, the boogeyman of the criminal underworld. She had touched his scars, heard his story, seen the photograph of a family destroyed by violence, and she found herself wondering, was he a monster, or was the galaxy that created him the real monster? At hour 16, her communicator buzzed. Unknown sender. Message: thank you for helping the children. Stay hidden when it starts. Don't come out until it's over. Cirrus stared at the message. Then she typed a reply. Who is coming? Who are you really fighting? The response came seconds later. His name is Lord Calith Vorn. He runs the largest slave network in the galaxy. He was the one who ordered the raid on my colony. He was the one who bought my children. Cirrus felt her stomach drop. Everyone knew Lord Calith Vorn, a Corvani noble, one of the wealthiest beings in known space. He had connections to half the criminal enterprises in the galaxy, but no one could prove anything. No one dared try. You're going to fight him? Here? The reply was simple. I'm going to end him. Here. Cirrus looked out her window at the stars. Somewhere out there, a ship full of killers was approaching, and one human was planning to face them alone. She should hide, should take her own advice and find somewhere safe. Instead, she began walking toward Docking Bay 7. The bay was empty when she arrived. Marcus's ship still sat in the center, battered and quiet. The human himself was nowhere to be seen. Then she heard a voice behind her. I told you to stay hidden. Cirrus turned. Marcus emerged from the shadows like he had been part of them. His wounds were bandaged beneath fresh clothes. His eyes were calm, cold. I'm a doctor, she said. You're about to fight an army. You're going to need medical support. I've done this before. Alone. And how many times have you nearly died? She stepped toward him. How many wounds have you ignored until they became dangerous? How many battles have you fought while bleeding out because there was no one to help you? Marcus said nothing. I'm not asking to fight, Cirrus continued. I'm not a warrior, but I can be there when it's over. I can make sure you survive long enough to find your son. For a long moment, Marcus simply stared at her. Then something shifted in his expression. Something human. You're brave, Cirrus. Stupid, but brave. He almost smiled. Fine. When the fighting starts, stay on my ship. The hull is reinforced. You'll be safe there. When it's over, if I'm still alive, you can patch me up. And if you're not alive, then take the ship. The navigation computer has coordinates for a human colony.
They'll take care of you. He turned away. Now go. The Iron Mandate will be here in less than 2 hours. I have preparations to make. Cirrus walked toward his ship. At the ramp, she paused and looked back. Marcus. He stopped. Your son. What's his name? The question seemed to strike him harder than any weapon. His shoulders tensed, his hands curled into fists. Daniel, he whispered. His name is Daniel. Then he disappeared into the shadows, and Cirrus was alone with the hum of the station and the weight of what was coming. In 2 hours, the most powerful criminal in the galaxy would arrive, and one human father was ready to burn the stars to find his son. When silence falls. They came with an army. He came with a promise, and a promise to a human is more dangerous than any weapon. The Iron Mandate was not a ship. It was a statement. Cirrus watched through the viewport of Marcus's vessel as the massive cruiser entered Valora Prime's space. It was easily 10 times the size of the station itself, black and gold, bristling with weapons, a floating fortress designed to intimidate everyone who saw it. Lord Calith Vorn had arrived. The station's communication systems crackled with the transmission. Valora Prime Station! The voice was cold, aristocratic, dripping with contempt. This is Lord Vorn of the Iron Mandate. I am searching for a human criminal who calls himself the Silence Walker. We have reason to believe he is on your station. Surrender him immediately and you will be spared. Resist, and my soldiers will take him by force. You have 10 minutes to comply. Cirrus's hands trembled as she watched the station's security chief respond. She could see the fear in his face, even through the grainy holographic display. My lord, we have no information about any. Do not lie to me. Vorn's voice cut like a blade. I have tracked the human for 3 years. His ship is in your docking bay. His blood is in your medical facility. Choose your next words carefully. The security chief looked at someone off-screen. Then he nodded slowly. I will order the human to surrender. Wise choice. The transmission ended. Cirrus felt sick. The station was going to give Marcus up. Hand him over to the creature who had destroyed his family, sold his children, and ruined countless other lives. She expected to feel fear. Instead, she felt anger. Her communicator buzzed. A message from Marcus. Stay hidden. It begins now. The station's lights flickered, then went out. Emergency lighting kicked in, dim red glow casting everything in shadow. Cirrus heard distant shouts, the scramble of station workers trying to understand what was happening. Then the screaming started. Marcus had spent 16 hours preparing. He knew Vorn's tactics. The Lord employed an elite guard of 40 soldiers, Corvani warriors trained from birth, augmented with cybernetic enhancements, equipped with the finest weapons money could buy. They were fast, ruthless, and utterly loyal, and they had never faced a human who had nothing left to lose. The first transport shuttle from the Iron Mandate docked at Bay 3. 10 soldiers exited in perfect formation, weapons raised, sensors scanning for threats. They found none. The bay was empty, silent. The emergency lights cast strange shadows on the walls. Spread out, the squad leader ordered. Find the human. Kill anyone who interferes. They moved with military precision, covering each other as they advanced through the station's corridors. Their helmet displays showed heat signatures of terrified civilians hiding in their quarters. No sign of the target. One soldier at the rear of the formation heard something. A whisper of movement, a breath of air. He turned. The corridor behind him was empty. He turned back. His squad was gone. All of them. Vanished. In the 2 seconds he had looked away, 9 elite soldiers had disappeared without a sound. The warrior's training kicked in. He raised his weapon, activated his emergency beacon, called for backup. Nothing happened. His communications were dead.
His sensors showed only static. Then he heard it. Footsteps, coming from everywhere and nowhere. "Hello?" The voice was calm, almost friendly. "I believe your master wants to speak with me." The soldier spun. A shadow detached itself from the wall. Human, average height, unremarkable appearance. But his eyes... The soldier fired. The human moved. 3 shots passed through empty air. The warrior felt an impact on his weapon arm, precise, surgical. His gun clattered to the floor. Another strike to his knee dropped him. A hand closed around his throat, not crushing, just holding. "Your friends are alive," Marcus said quietly. "Unconscious, but alive. I need you awake to deliver a message." "What message?" "Tell Lord Vorn that the Silence Walker accepts his invitation. I'll be visiting his ship personally, and I'll be bringing something with me." Marcus leaned closer. "Consequences." He released the soldier and stepped back. "Now sleep." A pressure point strike. The warrior crumpled. Marcus stood in the empty corridor, surrounded by 10 disabled soldiers. His heart rate was slightly elevated. His wounded thigh ached. His back burned where the stitches pulled. He ignored it all. Lord Calith Vorn was waiting, and Marcus had a promise to keep. The second shuttle arrived with 20 soldiers. They found the first squad unconscious in Bay 3. The leader immediately ordered a defensive formation and called for reinforcements. His communication reached the Iron Mandate. Within minutes, the remaining soldiers, all 30 of them, were deployed to the station. The ship itself began powering weapons, ready to destroy the entire station if necessary. Lord Vorn watched from his command throne as his army hunted a single human. He was not concerned. He was curious. The Silence Walker had been a thorn in his side for 3 years, destroying supply lines, killing operatives, freeing slaves, each attack precise, calculated, devastating. Vorn had lost 17 ships, 92 soldiers, millions of credits in merchandise, all to one human. He had studied his enemy, read reports, interviewed survivors. What he learned fascinated him. The human was not motivated by money, not by political ideology, not by any of the usual reasons beings fought. He was motivated by something far more dangerous: love. Love for a dead wife. Love for a lost daughter. Love for a son who might still be alive somewhere in the darkness of space. Vorn understood love. He understood how it could drive a being to madness, how it could make them capable of things that defied all logic. And he understood that such beings could not be controlled, only destroyed. "My lord," his communications officer interrupted his thoughts. "We've lost contact with ground forces." "All of them?" "Squads Alpha through Delta are not responding. Squad Epsilon reports..." The officer paused. "Squad Epsilon reports seeing something in the ventilation system. Then their signal cut out." Vorn smiled. The human was good. Very good. "How many soldiers remain?" 23 active, but the human is picking them off one by one. Our troops are panicking." "Of course they are. They've never faced a true predator." Vorn rose from his throne. "Recall all forces to Base 7. Create a defensive perimeter around the human's ship. He will come for it eventually. When he does, we will be ready." "What about the civilians?" "What about them?" Vorn's smile widened. "They are irrelevant. Our only target is the human. Everything else can burn." 23 soldiers formed a circle around Marcus's ship in Bay 7. They were the best that remained. Veterans of 100 battles. Killers who had sold their souls for coin long ago. They were terrified. The emergency lights cast their shadows in grotesque shapes across the bay walls. Every sound made them flinch. Every flicker of movement drew weapons. They had heard what happened to the others, found their comrades sleeping peacefully in corridors, stripped of weapons, completely unharmed, as if the human was mocking them. "Hold formation," the ranking officer commanded. "He's just one man, one human. He bleeds like anyone else." "He moves like smoke," another soldier whispered, "like he's not even there." "Shut up. He's not supernatural, he's just skilled. When he shows himself, we put him down." A sound from above. Everyone looked up. The ventilation grate exploded outward. Marcus dropped into the center of their formation. For one frozen instant, nobody moved. Then chaos erupted. The human was a blur of violence. He moved between soldiers like water flowing around stones, never where weapons pointed, always where they weren't. His hands struck with surgical precision, nerve clusters, pressure points, joints. Soldiers fell. Not dead, but disabled. Unable to fight. One warrior managed to grab him from behind. Marcus drove his elbow backward, twisted free, and used the attacker's own momentum to throw him into two others. Plasma bolts flew. Marcus ducked, rolled, used fallen soldiers as cover. A shot grazed his shoulder. He didn't slow down. 10 seconds. 15. 20. The ranking officer was the last one standing. He raised his weapon with shaking hands. "What are you?" he demanded. Marcus straightened. His shoulder bled. His breath came hard, but his eyes were calm. "I'm a father," he said simply. "And your master took my children." He moved. The officer fell. 23 elite soldiers lay scattered across the bay, unconscious, alive. Marcus walked to his ship, where Cirrus waited with wide eyes and trembling hands. "Are you hurt?" she asked immediately. "Nothing critical." He winced as she examined his shoulder. "Vorn will be expecting me now. He'll have prepared something special." "Then don't go." Cyrus met his eyes. "You proved your point. His army is down. Leave. Find another way to get information about your son." "There is no other way. Vorn has the records. He knows every slave he's ever bought and sold, the location of every transaction." Marcus's voice hardened. "My son's name is in those records. I'm not leaving without it." He pulled away from her gentle hands and walked toward the airlock. "Marcus, wait." He paused. Cirrus ran to him, pressing a small device into his palm. "Emergency beacon. If you're about to die, press it. I'll find a way to get you out." Marcus looked at the beacon, then at her. "Why do you care what happens to me?" "Because I've seen enough monsters in my life." Her voice was quiet. "You're not one of them. You're something else. Something I don't understand yet. But you saved those children, and that means something." For a moment, something softened in his wolf eyes. "Thank you, Cirrus, for everything." Then he stepped into the airlock, sealed the door behind him, and launched himself toward the Iron Mandate. Alone. 40 soldiers couldn't stop him. Now he would face the devil himself, and only one of them would walk away. Face to face with the devil. Lord Vorn had bought and sold thousands of lives. He was about to learn that some prices can never be paid. The airlock of the Iron Mandate opened with a hiss of pressurized air. Marcus stood in the entrance, silhouetted against the stars. His shoulder still bled. His body ached from the fight on the station. But his eyes were clear, focused. The corridor ahead was empty. No guards, no traps, just polished black floors and golden lighting. An invitation. Lord Vorn wanted this confrontation, wanted to face the human who had caused him so much trouble. His arrogance would be his downfall. At least, that was what Marcus was counting on. He moved through the ship like a ghost. Every corner was a potential ambush. Every shadow could hide an enemy. But the iron mandate was silent, waiting. The path led him to a massive door, 10 meters tall, carved with images of conquest and dominion. Vorn's throne room. Marcus pushed the doors open. The chamber beyond was obscene in its luxury. Golden pillars, crystal chandeliers, silk tapestries showing scenes of slavery and subjugation. And at the far end, on a throne that seemed carved from a single massive gemstone, sat Lord Calith Vorn. The Corvani noble was ancient. His scales had turned from silver to white with age. But his eyes, gold and cold, held intelligence that had manipulated empires. "The Silence Walker," Vorn's voice echoed through the chamber. "At last, we meet." Marcus walked forward. His footsteps were the only sound. "I've waited a long time for this," he said quietly. "As have I." Vorn gestured to the empty room. "No guards, no traps, just you and me as it should be. Two predators meeting in the wild." "You're no predator." Marcus stopped 10 meters from the throne. "You're a parasite. You don't hunt, you buy. You don't fight. You pay others to fight for you. You've never earned anything in your entire existence." Vorn laughed. It was a dry, rattling sound. "You misunderstand me, human. I am not a warrior. I am a businessman, and you have been very bad for business." He leaned forward. 17 ships, 92 soldiers, millions in merchandise, all because of one broken father who couldn't let go of his dead family. "My family isn't dead." Marcus's hands curled into fists. "Not all of them." "Ah, yes, the boy. Daniel, wasn't it?" Vorn smiled, a terrible expression on his alien face. "Such a precious child. So scared when we took him. Called for his daddy for days. Begged and cried and promised to be good if we would just let him go home." Marcus felt something crack inside him. "Where is he?" "I sold him 7 years ago." Vorn waved a dismissive hand. "To a collector in the Outer Rim. Someone who appreciates rare specimens. Human children are quite valuable, you know. So resilient. So adaptable. They can be trained to do almost anything." The world went red at the edges. Marcus moved. He crossed the 10 meters in less than a second. His hands reached for Vorn's throat, and something hit him from the side. He crashed into a pillar, stars exploding in his vision. Before he could recover, a massive weight slammed into his chest, pinning him to the floor. A Corvani warrior. But not like the others. This one was huge, 3 meters tall, covered in cybernetic enhancements. Its eyes glowed with artificial intelligence. Its body hummed with hidden weapons. "Did you think I would face you alone?" Vorn remained on his throne, utterly calm. "This is Zarn, my personal bodyguard, the most advanced cybernetic warrior ever created. He cost more than most planets." Zarn lifted Marcus by the throat, the human clawed at the mechanical hand crushing his windpipe. "You see, Silence Walker, I studied you, learned your patterns. You disable but rarely kill. You are precise and efficient, a true professional. But you have one fatal flaw." Vorn stood, walking closer. "You are driven by emotion, by love, and emotion makes you predictable." Zarn threw Marcus across the room. The human crashed into the wall and crumpled to the floor. "I knew you would come for me eventually, so I prepared. Zarn has been programmed with every combat technique in the galaxy. His reaction time is measured in microseconds. His strength could crush starship hull plating." Vorn stood over Marcus's broken form. "You never had a chance." Marcus coughed blood. His ribs screamed. His vision blurred, but his hand found the emergency beacon in his pocket. He didn't press it. Not yet. "Where?" he gasped. "Where did you sell my son?" "Still asking about the boy?" Vorn laughed again. Even now, facing death, you care only about that worthless child. How pathetically human. Where? Why should I tell you? What could you possibly offer me? Marcus looked up at the ancient monster standing above him. His eyes met those golden, soulless orbs. Information, he whispered. Vorn paused. What information? Your rivals, the Syndicate, the Crimson Hand, all the criminal organizations that compete with your empire. Marcus forced himself to speak through the pain. I've spent 3 years hunting your operations. But I've gathered intelligence on everyone. Fleet positions, warehouse locations, the names of spies in every organization. Information that would make you unstoppable. Vorn's eyes narrowed. You would trade this information for a single child? He's my son. Marcus's voice cracked. I would trade anything. For a long moment, the Corvani lord considered. His ancient mind weighed profit against revenge, cold calculation against emotional satisfaction. Profit won. Very well. I will tell you where I sold the boy, after you give me everything you know about my competitors. I need proof first, proof that my son is still alive. Vorn smiled. Zarn, the file. The cybernetic warrior produced a small data chip. Vorn took it and held it up. This contains the transaction record, the buyer's name, the location, everything you need to find your precious Daniel. He tucked the chip into his robes. Now, tell me about the Syndicate. Marcus closed his eyes. The pain was overwhelming. His body begged for rest. But Daniel was alive. His boy was out there, somewhere. He would not fail him again. The Syndicate operates a main base on the third moon of Cortos Prime, he began. Their leader is a Krillian named Sarthos. He has 300 soldiers and... For 20 minutes, Marcus talked. He gave Vorn names, locations, and secrets. Information that had taken years to gather. The noble listened with growing pleasure, recording everything. When it was over, Vorn nodded with satisfaction. Excellent. This is more than I hoped for. You have been useful after all, human. He pulled the data chip from his robes. Here, the information you sought. Take it, and be grateful that I am merciful enough to let you live. He tossed the chip at Marcus's feet. Marcus reached for it with trembling hands. His fingers closed around the small device that held the key to his son's location. One more thing, Vorn said. A question that has bothered me for 3 years. Why? Why did you start this crusade? Surely you knew you couldn't destroy my entire empire alone. Marcus looked at the chip in his hand, then at Vorn, then at the massive cybernetic warrior standing between them. I never wanted to destroy your empire, he said quietly. Then what did you want? Marcus smiled. For the first time, it reached his eyes. I wanted to get close enough to kill you myself. He moved. The emergency beacon flew from his pocket, not towards Cirrus, but toward Zarn. It hit the cybernetic warrior's chest and activated. A burst of electromagnetic energy. Zarn's systems flickered. For half a second, the machine was frozen. Half a second was enough. Marcus rolled under the giant's legs, came up behind him, and drove his fingers into the exposed circuitry at the base of the cyborg's skull. Zarn spasmed, sparked, collapsed. Vorn stared in disbelief. That's impossible. How did you... Your bodyguard was impressive. Marcus advanced on the old Corvani. But I've fought dozens like him over the years, learned their weaknesses, prepared countermeasures. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small knife. The information I gave you? Half of it was lies. The Syndicate will find your ships at the coordinates I provided. They'll think you're attacking them, and they'll respond. Vorn backed toward his throne. You planned this. Every moment, every word, every injury. Marcus kept walking. I needed you confident, arrogant, convinced you had won. That's the only way you would tell me what I needed to know. Guards! Vorn screamed. Someone help me! Your guards are on the station, unconscious, and your ship's security systems were disabled 20 minutes ago by a very clever Nathari doctor who patched into your network while you were monologuing. Cirrus's voice crackled over the ship's intercom. I told you I wanted to help. Vorn hit his throne and could retreat no further. The most powerful criminal in the galaxy, reduced to a trembling old creature facing his own mortality. Please, he whimpered. I'll give you anything. Money, ships, power. I can help you find your son. You already helped me find my son. Marcus pressed the knife to Vorn's throat. Now you're going to help me with something else. What? Anything. Just name it. Marcus leaned close. His eyes were wolf eyes, predator eyes, father's eyes. You're going to help me send a message. The monster who stole his family was finally at his mercy. But revenge was not what Marcus Cole had come for. The Silence Walker's promise. He could have killed them all. Instead, he did something far more terrifying. He let them live to remember. Lord Calith Vorn had spent 300 years building an empire of fear. Slavers across the galaxy spoke his name in reverence. Politicians accepted his bribes. Military leaders looked the other way. He had bought and sold millions of lives, and no one had ever held him accountable. Now he knelt on the cold floor of his own throne room, a knife at his throat, facing a human with nothing left to lose. Please, Vorn whispered. Whatever you want. I'll give you whatever you want. Marcus looked down at the creature who had destroyed his family, the being who had ordered the raid on his colony, who had ripped his wife from his arms, sold his children into slavery, and burned everything he loved to ash. For 7 years, Marcus had imagined this moment. He had dreamed of it during sleepless nights, planned it during endless days of hunting, fantasized about watching the light fade from those golden eyes. Now that the moment had arrived, he felt empty. Stand up, Marcus said quietly. Vorn scrambled to his feet, confusion mixing with terror on his ancient face. I'm not going to kill you. The words hung in the air. What? Vorn's voice cracked. But I destroyed your family. I sold your children. I know what you did. Marcus lowered the knife. I've known for 7 years. I've had 7 years to plan revenge. 7 years to imagine all the ways I could make you suffer. Then why? Why spare me? Marcus turned away from the throne. He walked to the massive windows that overlooked the stars, the same stars where his son was lost somewhere, waiting to be found. Because killing you doesn't bring my wife back. It doesn't give me back the years I lost with my daughter. It doesn't heal the scars on my son's soul. His voice was tired, so tired. Revenge is empty. I learned that a long time ago. Then what do you want? Marcus turned back to face the Corvani Lord. I want you to broadcast a message, on every channel, to every system in the galaxy. I want everyone to see what happens to those who trade in children. Vorn's eyes widened. You want me to confess everything, every slave you've sold, every life you've destroyed, every crime your empire has committed. Marcus stepped closer. I want the galaxy to see you on your knees, admitting what you are. I want every politician you've bribed and every official you've bought to watch their business partner crumble. I want your empire to fall apart. Not because I killed you, but because you destroyed it yourself. That's worse than death. Vorn's voice was barely audible. If I confess, everyone I've worked with will turn on me. My allies will become enemies. I'll have nothing. You'll have your life. Marcus's eyes were cold. which is more than you gave my wife. For a long moment, Vorn simply stared at the human who had defeated him. Then, slowly, his shoulders slumped. And if I refuse? Marcus smiled. It was not a kind smile. Then I'll broadcast everything myself. The data chip you gave me contains more than my son's location. It has your entire transaction history, every deal, every contact, every secret. He held up the chip. I've already copied it. If you refuse to confess, I'll release this information to every news service and law enforcement agency in the galaxy. You'll still lose everything, but you'll also lose the chance to control the narrative. Vorn closed his eyes. 300 years of power, 300 years of conquest, all reduced to this single, terrible choice. Fine, he whispered. I'll do it. The broadcast went out 30 minutes later. Lord Calith Vorn, kneeling in his own throne room, confessing to crimes that spanned centuries, naming names, providing evidence, destroying himself in front of the entire galaxy. Across 1,000 worlds, beings watched in shock. Politicians scrambled to distance themselves. Business partners vanished. Military leaders who had looked the other way suddenly found their careers ending. But Marcus barely noticed. He was already on his way to the shuttle bay, the data chip clutched in his hand, the coordinates burned in his mind. His son was on a planet called Nerith 4, a remote world in the outer rim, far from civilization, far from hope, but not far from a father who had crossed the galaxy to find him. Cirrus was waiting at the shuttle. You did it, she said quietly. You brought down the largest criminal empire in history, without firing a single shot. Vorn destroyed himself. I just gave him the opportunity. Marcus climbed into the shuttle. Are you coming? Cirrus hesitated. She had a life on Valora Prime, patience, responsibilities, a career she had spent decades building. But she had also seen something in the past 18 hours that changed everything. A human who chose mercy over vengeance. A father who refused to become the monster he hunted. Someone needs to make sure you don't die before you find your son, she said, climbing in beside him. Consider it a medical intervention. Marcus almost smiled. Thank you, Cirrus, for everything. Don't thank me yet. Nerith 4 is 3 days away. You still haven't slept. And those wounds need proper treatment, not just battlefield patches. She pointed to the back of the shuttle. Rest. I'll handle the navigation. For once, Marcus didn't argue. The journey to Nerith 4 was quiet. Marcus slept for the first time in days, deep, dreamless sleep that his body desperately needed. When he woke, Cirrus had prepared food and fresh bandages. The news networks are going insane, she reported. Vorn's confession has triggered investigations across the galaxy. Slave markets are shutting down. Trafficking routes are being exposed. They're calling it the largest anti-slavery action in history. Good. Marcus stared out the viewport at the passing stars. It won't end slavery. Nothing will end it completely. But maybe fewer children will be taken. Maybe fewer families will be destroyed. Is that enough? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. It's something. And something is better than nothing. Nerith 4 was a frozen world. Snow covered everything. The sky was perpetually gray. The only settlement was a compound deep in the mountains, a fortress owned by a collector who specialized in rare specimens. Marcus landed the shuttle 3 kilometers from the compound. The cold bit into his skin as he stepped outside, but he barely noticed. Wait here, he told Cirrus. This shouldn't take long. Marcus. She grabbed his arm. Be careful. We don't know what's in there. I know exactly what's in there. His voice was steel. My son. He vanished into the snow. The compound had 20 guards. Marcus disabled them in under 4 minutes. The collector, a bloated Corvani named Thress, barely had time to scream before Marcus had him pinned against the wall. "Where are the children?" I don't know what you're—" Marcus increased the pressure on Thress's throat. "The children. Now." Thress's eyes bulged. "Lower level. There's a dormitory. They're kept there." Marcus dropped him and ran. The dormitory was a cold, gray room filled with small beds. Dozens of children, all species, all ages, huddled together, watching him with terrified eyes. But Marcus only saw one. A boy. 12 years old now. Brown hair, brown eyes, thin and pale and scared, but alive. "Daniel?" The boy looked up. His eyes widened. "Dad?" Marcus crossed the room in 3 steps and pulled his son into his arms. For the first time in 7 years, he cried. The journey back to civilized space took a week. They freed all the children from the compound, contacted authorities, arranged for reunifications with families or placement in safe homes. Daniel barely spoke at first. 7 years of captivity had left scars that would take a lifetime to heal. But slowly, with patience and love, he began to open up. He told Marcus about the day he was taken, about the fear and loneliness, about the other children who had come and gone over the years. He asked about his mother and his sister. Marcus told him the truth, as gently as he could. They grieved together. When they finally reached a human colony, Cirrus prepared to leave. "You should stay," Marcus said. "Both of you. This is a good place. Safe. Daniel can start school. You can open a medical practice. We could—" He hesitated. "We could be something like a family." Cirrus smiled, a real smile, for the first time since they'd met. "I think I'd like that." The Silence Walker became a legend. Children across the galaxy heard stories about a human who hunted slavers, who freed the innocent, who never stopped, never gave up, and never let evil go unpunished. Marcus Cole retired the name. He had found what he was looking for. His son was safe. His heart was healing. But sometimes, late at night, he would receive messages. Slavers operating in Sector 7. Children missing. Trafficking ring discovered on Corto Station. Authorities corrupt. Help us, please. Marcus would delete these messages. He had a new life now, a family, responsibilities. But one night, a message arrived that changed everything. "Mr. Cole, you don't know me, but you saved my brother from the crying dawn 3 years ago." He never forgot. Neither did I. There's a ship called the Dark Promise. It's carrying 200 children to the slave markets in the Outer Rim. The authorities won't act. No one will help. I know you're retired. I know you found peace. But those children have fathers too. Families who love them. People who are searching. Please. Marcus stared at the message for a long time. Then he walked to his son's room. Daniel was sleeping peacefully, safe and warm and home. He walked to the room he shared with Cyrus. She was reading medical journals, the lamp casting soft light on her face. "Another message?" she asked without looking up. "Yes." "How many children?" 200. Cirrus set down her journal. "When do we leave?" Marcus sat beside her. "I can't ask you to—" "You're not asking. I'm volunteering." She took his hand. "Besides, someone needs to patch you up afterward. It's basically job security at this point." Marcus laughed. A real laugh, warm and full and human. "Thank you, Cirrus. Always." She kissed him gently. "Now go tell Daniel. He'll want to help with the planning. He's been studying tactical systems for months." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "He's 12. "He's your son." Cirrus smiled. "Some things are genetic." 3 days later, a battered ship emerged from hyperspace near the Dark Promise. The slavers saw it coming. They laughed. One ship against their heavily armed transport. Then they received a transmission. "This is the Silence Walker. You have 30 seconds to release the children and surrender. After that, I stop being polite." The laughter stopped. The captain of the Dark Promise looked at his crew, looked at the single ship blocking their path. He thought about all the stories he had heard, all the legends, all the warnings. "Release the children," he ordered. "Captain, we outnumber them 20-1. We can release the children." The captain's voice shook. "I am not dying today because some fool thought he could fight the Silence Walker." 200 children were freed that day. And across the galaxy, in dark corners and hidden places, slavers whispered to each other, "He's back."